Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to Cover Crimson. We're going to talk a lot about recruiting. We're going to get into maybe the transfer portal, some information that kind of blew my mind, and I'm sure you guys will feel the same way too, and more right here on the show, brought to you by our friends at Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi, home of the Timeout Sports Lounge, Vegas-style sports book, right there, an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa. So that's what we got for you guys today. Let's get this show started. All right, he's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Cover Crimson. You can also catch us on covercrimson.com. Clint, the news that kind of started to trickle out that Bama was potentially looking at Kevin Jennings from SMU, the I guess now sophomore quarterback, was very surprising to me. But I'm like, hey, remember Keelan Russell was committed there and we got him. What about Ty Simpson? There's so many different angles, but do you even think this is true?
Well, I guess that's what we're here to discuss, because, and we'll go ahead and this is how this whole thing came about. You have the Manning Passing Academy, and On3 posted a list of notable attendees. So you're going to have Arch Manning, John Mateer, Avery Johnson from Kansas State, Kay Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers, Austin Simmons, Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton. There's a whole list. There's more than that. But Billy Embody, he used to cover LSU and SMU. Now he still covers SMU, but he's made the switch to Ole Miss. He quote tweeted that, and I thought it was an interesting quote tweet, because he said Alabama tried to recruit Kevin Jennings into the transfer portal to take over for Milroe, but sure, Ty Simpson deserves a notable mention over Kevin Jennings. So, interesting tweet, because when you look at it, it's like, okay, is it possible that Alabama could have kicked the tires on a college football playoff quarterback? Yes. Kevin Jennings, though, it would be an interesting choice, because we saw the issues with Alabama this past season, as far as under Jalen Milroe, the consistency issues on offense, the fact that you really had to funnel a lot of your offense through his legs. That's far and away where he was the most dynamic and the most effective. And, really standing in there and making plays consistently from within the pocket wasn't really something that Jalen Milroe did extremely well. He could do it. He wanted to do it, but obviously that wasn't where he thrived. Mm-hmm. Kevin Jennings can win from within the pocket, but he really does his best work out of structure. When things break down around him, he is mobile. He's not as dynamic of a runner as Milroe, but he's still extremely mobile. But he has major consistency issues. We saw really good games. We saw not so great games. And so it's like, why would that be your target? And so it didn't make a lot of sense to me on the surface. Now, granted, here's what can happen. We have to remember that these NIL agents, they're doing whatever they can. If they don't have a client already, maybe they're trying to land that client. So they go out and they try to figure out, okay, let me figure out who would be interested in a guy like Kevin Jennings. Let me get some offers, and let me take those offers to Kevin. That's how a lot of these guys are operating. Sometimes it's reaching out and saying, hey, if I could get a deal for this player, would you be interested? Someone might say yes. It's a matter of how much is that deal. A lot of different ways that you can go about it. But the embellishment part, a lot of people were putting it on Billy for being the one who embellished it. I just highly doubt he took something that was very minor and turned it into something big. In my opinion, it could have come from, okay, let me put it this way, and this I'll put it on Twitter. This NIL agent, and I'm this is hypothetical. This is not exactly what happened, but I'm saying this is what could have happened. He goes to Kevin Jennings. Maybe he reached out to Alabama. Alabama was like, yeah, we'd be interested. We would look into that. This is a college football playoff quarterback who had a lot of success this past season, still got multiple years of eligibility. Yeah, we would, at least, see what that was about. The NIL agent takes it to Kevin Jennings. He embellishes it a little bit. Now Jennings passes that information along to the SMU coaching staff. Then they pass it along. It's not just the coaching staff. Sources kind of know in that building what was going on. One of them talks to Billy. That's how things got embellished. Or maybe it was Alabama reached out directly to Kevin Jennings, but it was very much kicking the tires. But Kevin Jennings decided to embellish it a little bit. And then it's the same kind of going on down the line where the coaches find out about it, they share it. Or maybe it was whatever source told Billy, maybe they embellished it. Like there are so many different ways that this could have turned into what it is. But the bottom line to me, Mick, is I do not think Alabama was actively seeking to get Kevin Jennings in the transfer portal and pay him a ton of money right after you signed Keelan Russell to probably a hefty contract as well. I say contract, a hefty deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's got multiple years of eligibility. Like Ty Simpson already being on the roster, that's completely different. If he elects to come back next season, you'll have to probably have that conversation at that point. But for now, he was already on the roster. Keelan, he knew that. But if you go bring in a high-profile quarterback from the transfer portal after you've locked up Keelan, I don't think that would have set well. So overall, I don't think Alabama was in heavy pursuit of Kevin Jennings. I don't believe it. Is long-winded way of saying I don't believe it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you on that. I mean, if it was Tennessee, I'd say, hey, that makes perfect sense. You're tired of dealing with Nico. There's been a problem with Nico. I told you guys that a long time ago. And Nico's at UCLA now, and they need a quarterback. Can you imagine going to that locker room and all of a sudden you replace Ty Simpson, who's been there, put in the time, put in the work, sat back, been a great backup quarterback, studied the film, earned the respect of the team in the locker room, and then replace him with some guy that you just signed? And it's when you think about Jennings, I mean, was Jennings a guy that was like a Heisman Trophy candidate to you? Was he someone that you were coming into the season going, hey, this guy's a difference maker? They were going after reportedly the quarterback at North Carolina. Help me out with his name. You know who I'm talking about. A couple
Drake
years
May?
ago.
Drake May.
Yeah, right, May. And May, there was all kind of smoke there. He's also a guy that had Alabama in the mix from the beginning, had a relationship there. Right. And would have made sense. It would have made sense. And we would have taken Drake May over Jalen Milroe every day. Even though Milroe had a good skill set and all that, May would have just fit what Alabama does. Would have been a good fit. So I believe that. I don't believe this, especially like you said, you got the number one quarterback in a lot of people's books as a true freshman. You got a guy that you brought from Washington and Austin Mack. And then you got a guy that's been there for like 5 years. He's been there for like 25 years, backup. Now he's ready to go. And he's looked really, really good. It's his time. You have to have those guys because you got to convince everyone else that you're going to hold your word if they hold theirs, especially this day and age. To me, Saban was great at this. I just don't believe it either.
I mean, remember, we heard rumors about Carson Beck, right? And I didn't believe those either. It didn't make sense. Just look at it from, okay, this coaching staff, from what we understand and from what we've heard, a huge element to Jalen Milroe being named the starting quarterback pretty much out of the gate. And there being a loyalty to him. There were some struggles in there, probably deserved to be benched against Oklahoma. If I'm speaking candidly, they didn't turn away from him. And a lot of that had to do with locker room dynamics and this coaching staff having a good feel for those dynamics and keeping those at the forefront. And some people will say they even put that as a priority to the detriment of the team because you probably needed to make a quarterback switch, at least in that Oklahoma game. And there were some other moments, maybe you could have done that as well. But you're telling me that same coaching staff that approached it that way was willing to go out and get a transfer portal quarterback after you've just paid I don't know what the NIL deal was for Keelan Russell, but I would assume it was pretty hefty. You go pay him a pretty significant amount of money. You've already got a lot of NIL probably invested in the quarterback position, and then you go potentially get a multi-year starter like Kevin Jennings isn't going to be a guy, in my opinion, who comes out after this next season. I mean, he's 5'11", he's 185 pounds, and there are just some massive consistency issues. So he's bare minimum probably going to be in college for another 2 years. And, you know, it's possible that Ty Simpson would be in the same situation, but he was already on the roster. You didn't go recruit him after you signed Keelan. So, you know, I don't know. And Isaiah Horton's another one. He came to Alabama because of Ty Horton. That relationship was a huge part of it. And I wanted to say he committed right around the time that the first round of the college football playoffs were happening, like December 20th, December 21st. It was right before Christmas. But there was, even before Horton entered the transfer portal, there was already rumblings that he was going to enter, and the destination was going to be Alabama. And so if that was already kind of taking place behind the scenes, when did Alabama reach out, which apparently, allegedly, it was prior to the start of the college football playoff. You know, when did they reach out, and were they talking to Isaiah Horton, who wanted to play with his friend Ty Simpson, and they were trying to get him to commit while simultaneously pursuing Kevin Jennings, when this coaching staff is very big on locker room dynamics? Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. There's so many angles to this. I'm not buying it. I just thought it was really interesting because this is the second not even portal quarterback. This is the second quarterback that Alabama has been linked to. And this is one that there's some allegations that they tried to not it wasn't like he entered and they kicked the tires. The assertion here is that they were actively trying to get him in the portal. And that doesn't make any sense to me, Mick. I think Alabama, they wanted experience, I'm sure. Like the fact that Alabama, you know, Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, Keelan Russell being a freshman, zero starting experience or any significant playing experience up to this point, other than Ty Simpson in the second half against USF a couple of years ago. But I don't think I just don't think that would have been the approach by this coaching staff. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Guys, we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. I've talked a lot about golf season. We're in golf season right now. They've got 2 amazing golf courses at Dancing Rabbit, the Azaleas and the Oaks, multi-million-dollar facility. It really is the Augusta you can play, and you can do that without a membership. It's an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham, right there in historic Philadelphia. So as you play golf this summer, keep them in mind. It's an easy trip for a bachelor party or a weekend spa. You got table games and slots with Golden Moon and Silver Star Casino. Talked about the sports book earlier. So all that right there going on. All right, let's change gears here and let's talk about the recruiting weekend in Tuscaloosa. So another big weekend, 11 players in town to meet Alabama and the coaching staff. Most of these guys are in for their, multiple visits. Some guys more than others. But immediately you started hearing some really good news for the future of Alabama, because hearing some of these guys are really focused on coming to Alabama. 3 of them already committed.
Yeah, it was a good weekend as far as high-profile guys, 5 stars, highly rated 4 stars. It was a great weekend as far as getting multiple commitments on campus, and that way you can kind of use those guys to recruit some of the other players that you're trying to lock down. And it was also a good weekend as far as just the conversations that were had, how things went down. Well, Alabama's trending for a lot of different guys, and we've been talking about several of them, but they made some movement with some high-profile guys. Jairi Edwards is one, a 5-star safety. Sam Utu, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, offensive lineman out of Orange, California. Alabama made a significant push with him, and really it's to a point where he's probably on commitment watch. And so, Alabama's really looking to get some more help on the offensive line. Xavier Griffin is a guy who I talked about a little bit last week. Very, very good off-ball linebacker / edge rusher with some versatility. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about him. But then also Matt Panikowski.
I thought it was Ponatoski, but yeah,
Ponatoski.
Something like that. Yeah, 2-star. It's 2 sports star. Baseball might steal him away, but a quarterback.
They are in good shape with a lot of these players. They're making headway, and I think that's really we talk about Alabama's recruiting class. I think they're sitting just outside the top 10 right now, only have 5 commitments. Got a feeling they're probably going to start climbing once some of these guys start popping.
So Utu, talking about another one of these guys that 4-star type talent, and a lot of the experts, including our friend Andrew Bone, thinks that he's coming to Alabama. Coach Cap is recruiting him. Coach Cap seems to be a machine when it comes to recruiting. I mean, every time you turn around, he's involved in another Alabama commitment of somebody that's a difference maker, it feels like.
I like the combination. Sometimes you'll see them pursuing, lower rated guys who end up climbing, like Chris Booker.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of people knew who Chris Booker was when Alabama offered him, even when they locked him up. Like I think right around the time that he got locked up by Alabama, he got that on 3 ranking, and a lot of people say it's the Bama bump, but he's a really good player. I mean, that's the bottom line. Alabama's coaching staff is ahead of the curve a lot of times when it comes to these guys. Obviously, he took a visit to Georgia. Georgia's trying to get him to flip, but you've got those types of players. But then you got the Michael Carrolls, the Jackson Lloyds, the 5-star phenoms. I mean, and to stack these offensive line classes, it's very important. I think Kalen DeBoer and company having a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line when you go to the national championship, like they understand the importance of having the dudes up front. So it's a priority. And Sam Utu, I mean, very, very good player, plays tackle for his high school team, but has some positional flexibility. A lot of people feel like, I want to say he's like 6'4", 6'5", weighs about 325, 330, has more of a guard's build. But I think he has the positional flexibility to play tackle or guard, maybe even center, maybe be a 5-position guy, but I think more so guard or tackle. But, he's not the same player because I don't think he's quite as violent. But Troy Fautanu, who was a first-round offensive tackle for Kalen DeBoer in Washington a couple of years ago, a lot of people kind of viewed him. He was a tackle in a guard's body and very athletic, was definitely ultra physical in the run game, bully in the run game. Don't think Utu is quite that physical, even though he is solid, good run blocker. But, it's another situation where a lot of people were wondering if Troy was going to end up playing on the interior, ended up being a phenomenal left tackle for the Huskies. And now, he's in the NFL and he's still playing tackle. So I could totally see Utu sticking out there on the outside or ending up moving inside. Either way, really advanced technically. He's got the positional flexibility, excellent in pass protection, but as I said, solid in the run game as well. Can get out in space and get guys blocked. That's one of the things that I always look for when it comes to a Kalen DeBoer offensive lineman. Got to have the balance to stay upright, can't be on the ground, get out in space, hit a moving target, work up to the second level. When you talk about this Kalen DeBoer offense, it wants guys who can do that, and I think Utu is he certainly fits that bill. So I was impressed watching his tape, and this is a guy who's ranked just outside the top 200, but I think 24/7 Sports has him ranked just outside the top 100. So he's a borderline top 100 recruit, at least according to them, and I think he'll continue to climb. Alabama's in really good shape for him, and I'll be curious to see what ends up happening. As you said, Tim Watts, Andrew Bone, and Steve Wiltfong for Bama Online and On3, all those guys put in RPM predictions for Alabama to land the talented offensive lineman out of Orange, California.
ESPN has him number 77, and then 24/7 Sports 102. So, you're talking about elite when it comes to his ranking with those two in particular, but everyone likes him. How do you feel like he fits in with what Alabama brought in last year, the Michael Carrolls, the Jackson Lloyds, the Micah Dubose type guys?
Well, he's like another player where it's positional flexibility. And we talk about that a lot when it comes to this coaching staff, and everybody values versatility. But I think that Alabama's coaching staff on both sides of the football, there's such an emphasis on that. Like, you get this kid in here, and is he going to be a tackle or is he going to be a guard? Is Michael Carroll going to be a tackle or is Michael Carroll going to be a guard? Like, you can not only when guys are kind of have that flexibility and they can play both inside and out, you can maintain, like if you have an injury along your offensive line, you're already in a position where guys, you can keep your best 5 who are available. Like you get your 6 best offensive linemen in there to replace the one injury that you have with your starters. Like the more you can do that sort of thing, the better off you are, in my opinion. And a guy like Utu, like I said, I actually could see him sticking out there at tackle. For now, I'll probably project him on the inside, but it's like you've recruited on the interior pretty well and probably could use some help at tackle. Now, Jackson Lloyd's development will be huge, but you can't just have 2 starters. You got to have depth. A guy like Utu can come in and probably provide depth pretty close to day one. And, who knows where he could end up being, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if he ended up being if he ends up at Alabama, and regardless of, he could end up somewhere else too, but the athleticism is what's crucial for him. I could totally see him eventually emerging as a first round draft pick, depending on that length.
A lot of teams obviously would love to get his services, but another guy from California, these guys, this coaching staff kills it with the California blue chippers.
They do. Yeah. And they're recruiting better. And I say better, we knew it was going to get better in year 2, but they're doing well as far as the Southeast. I mean, it's not like it's just California, but California is a good pipeline to have. Like Nick Saban went to California and got some really good players, was also recruiting some really good players from out there in California. I mean, the fact that you've got a West Coast guy or someone like Kalen DeBoer who's familiar with the West Coast and a coaching staff that's familiar with the West Coast, I mean, they can become pretty relatable to those types of players, but I don't think it's hurting them in any shape, form, or fashion when it comes to the Southeastern recruiting. So this coaching staff can recruit. I think they're doing a good job as far as sticking. They will play the NIL game, but they're not going to get into bidding wars. Mm-hmm. If they end up losing out on a talented player, so be it. It's like the tackle who ended up decommitting, the 5-star, and ended up going to Michigan, Ty Haywood. It's one of those situations. Really good player, probably going to be a great player for Michigan. But Alabama wasn't going to do this back and forth as far as, okay, if you're one of those players who was like, I go to the highest bidder and my loyalty doesn't mean a whole lot. When you enter that relationship from the jump, and that's kind of the player's approach, you're going to be dealing with that the entire time they're there, right? I mean, it's like every offseason, it's like, hey, I played a little bit this year. I got a couple of starts. I showed some promise. Give me more money or I enter the transfer portal. It's just, I think Alabama's approach is building a locker room dynamic or a team dynamic where they feel like they're being taken care of on the NIL front, but it's not a priority for most of these guys. And it's not something where I think Alabama's dealing with those headaches every offseason quite like some of these other programs probably will.
One of the other guys I thought was interesting that was there, you brought up Xavier Griffin. Grew up an Alabama fan. Mom played hoops in Tuscaloosa, decommitted from, what was he, like USC? Yep. Georgia's after him, 5-star. It's the number 1 linebacker according to 24/7 Sports. This is the guy you got to get if you're Alabama, right? This is the guy you got to bring in. You got the mom's on the team. She's yelling Roll Tide. And it's Gainesville, Georgia. I mean, that's like home of AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. And we need another phenomenal one at Alabama.
He'll probably end up playing Wolf. He can play off the ball or on the ball. It's the same thing as I mentioned last week when talking about this guy. I've made the comparisons to Jahad Campbell because I could see him having a very successful career at Alabama as an off-ball linebacker. And I could see him having a very successful career as an on-ball guy. Rashaan Evans was kind of the same way. A guy like Quay Russaw, is he going to play on the ball? Is he going to play off the ball? Like, we have these conversations about a lot of these guys. But for what Alabama wants at that Wolf position, we've talked about Justin Hill and how he fits that billing. Xavier Griffin, not the exact same skill set. They have different strengths, but at the same time, the comfort level that he'll have playing off the ball when he's asked to do that will only make his transition to a place or a defense like Kane Wommack's in Alabama is all that much easier. And when you look at like the 3-3-5 defense and the fact that Alabama will use I mean, is it a true 3-3-5 look? You're pulling the Wolf linebacker off, but he's kind of shallow. Maybe not to the extent of some of these other teams. Iowa State runs a 3-3-5. Mississippi State runs multiple front defense, but a lot of 3-3-5 looks where you got the 3 safety look, the 3 high safety look, which is kind of new and different. TCU's done that a little bit. And that's kind of what Xavier Griffin does in high school. And what happens is when you're playing that guy off the ball, and he's going to line up in what would be considered the Mike linebacker, but he's technically like your 4th rusher. And what it does is it allows you to keep the quarterback. He's always accounting for the quarterback. If the quarterback breaks and takes off, that guy, your Mike backer in that situation in those 3-3-5 looks, he's going to be responsible for the quarterback anywhere he goes. And it also gives a little bit more freedom to the defensive line when you've got a guy who can make them right if they, kind of take some liberties, maybe aren't playing as gap sound football, or they're trying to take some chances. The off-ball guy, that 4th defensive lineman who's essentially playing off the ball, he can make you right in a lot of those instances. But a guy like Xavier Griffin already does that at an extremely high level. That is exactly what he does in high school. He does it to perfection. He can play in a 4-2-5 as far as being on the football. He can play in that 3-3-5 look, and he's got range. He's got elite closing speed, relentless pursuit. Love the way he plays the game, and I think that he would fit very, very well in Alabama's defense. And once, I said it last week and I'll say it once again, you start stacking multiple of these guys, Xavier Griffin, Justin Hill, you can really start having some fun as far as moving them around, doing different things, really confusing opposing offenses. And, Alabama seems to be in really good shape with him, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out.
Look, guys, Father's Day is on Sunday. My birthday's on Saturday. Not that you have to buy me a gift, but if you did, this is what I want right here. Something from Roback. Now, I don't want that one. I already have it. It's great. You guys can get that hoodie, but they've got so many great Alabama things going on right now. Roback.com. Our promo code is Crimson20 to get 20% off your first order per email address. So take advantage of that, Roback.com, and look sharp on Father's Day. If you don't have kids, then just pretend you do and buy yourself something.
That's probably what I'll do.
Let's talk about ways to be able to catch the show outside of YouTube.
Yeah, Cover Crimson Podcast Network on both Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really wherever you listen or want to listen. Obviously, a lot of our audience is on YouTube. We've kind of built the channel or the show through that avenue primarily, but there are some people who really enjoy having the podcast and listening to it that way. So we're building that over there. Really would appreciate anybody and everybody going over there and downloading, following, whatever, wherever you listen to your podcast or have the ability to do that. Apple Podcast, if you got an Apple iPhone, you can do it, but that would certainly help us. We're trying to build that revenue stream to where we can do some different things. But it's the Cover Crimson Podcast Network. Don't just search Cover Crimson. And if you do, make sure it's the correct one. Look at the most recent downloads or the most recent uploads to see exactly when we've released the newest episode to make sure it's the correct channel.
Yep. Love that idea. And then finally, guys, we are excited about a new partner that we're going to be telling you guys about coming up, Ocean City, Maryland. You're going to absolutely love it. Clint and I were talking before the show about how we both would love to have a vacation. I mean, not to say that our jobs aren't really fun, but at the same time, it's that time of year, right? Because we're closing in, believe it or not, on the start of the season, right? And then that means work gets really hectic for us. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But the Residence Inn by Marriott in Ocean City, Maryland, 300 Sea Bay Lane. I grew up going there to Ocean City. That's where we went for spring break. That's where we went for vacation. And it is just amazing. And this hotel it's huge. It's unbelievable. When I saw it, I talked to our friend Keith, and I'm like, man, this place is, amazing. Like right there by Secrets, all the things that you do, but you're looking for somewhere to go. You want to do something different. Ocean City, Maryland offers a lot. And when I mean offers, don't forget about steamed crabs, all the great Maryland style crab soups and everything else. But the beach is great. The boardwalk's fantastic. And it just gives you a different look for vacation. Dunaway, Brown, LT, the whole crew went up there a few years ago and had an absolute blast. And Clint and I, we need to get up there, Clint. Fly into Salisbury, go over there and hang out. So fun.
I dated a girl who is from Baltimore. So I've been up to Baltimore several times.
Mm-hmm.
Been to Ocean City once. Beautiful place. One of the most underrated. I was a Baltimore Ravens fan. So obviously you had that element of it, but I'm a cold weather guy. So it just Baltimore, that area really suited me. But Ocean City was awesome, man.
And I'm telling you right now, you're not going to beat the deal you'll get from the Residence Inn by Marriott Ocean City. You're not going to get a better location. And I can't wait to get up there and hang out and try it. Well, like I said, Clint, you thought you had a good time when you went before. Wait, I'm going to show you a much better time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we I don't think we're breaking up anytime soon, Nick. This relationship's it's for the long haul. So I feel like we'll withstand a trip to Ocean City a lot better.
What do we got going on covercrimson.com? What are you working on right now? I know you're always doing something over there.
Yeah, the player rankings continue. Obviously took the weekend off, but got several out last week, and we're starting to get up there and some of those who are going to be contributing to Alabama this fall. So that's going to be fun. Definitely get over to covercrimson.com and join in on those conversations.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it. And again, we're brought to you by our friends at Pearl River Resort. Talked about them throughout the broadcast today. Take advantage of that Dancing Rabbit golf course. It's the Augusta you can play. You don't even need a membership. And it is a multi-million-dollar facility that got everything you need over at Pearl River. The 2 casinos are fantastic, Golden Moon and Silver Star. You go there weekends, they have bands, they have full bar, and a lot of the different spots in there. The Philip M. Steakhouse is amazing. You should have seen Coker when I was there last time. Put down that tomahawk steak. I thought he was going to gnaw on the bone. It was just that good. No, I'm sorry, that was actually me. But, we love it over there, and I know that you guys are going to love it too. If you're in the slots, they have amazing slots. I mean, I'm talking about the best you're going to find in the South. You're going to have to go to Vegas to get anybody that can match them as far as the slots go. But table games as well, Timeout Sports Lounge. And again, Geyser Falls Water Park is starting to heat up. You're going to want to get out there and do that, the spa, all that stuff at Pearl River Resort. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Roll Tide.
Escape to Pearl River Resort.